Are they messy? Can they pick an object in a messy table? Why is their table consistently messy? They can't find something, or they can't read clearly. Why do they jump from one line to another? So we work on so many things except focusing on the vision, and the vision is its own treatment. Okay, next is the ATNR. This is the Asymmetrical Tonic Neck Reflex. This is book 2. The asymmetric tonic neck reflex is a really important reflex. All reflexes are important, but we tend to work a lot with the ATNR, especially the kids I work with. We tend to work on a lot with the ATNR and the STNR. These two, the coordination, of course, actually all of them. And I work on the gallant, most of them, all of them. But especially you'll see like a lot of kids with ADHD, hyperactive kids, for whatever reason, they tend to show signs of a retained ATNR and tend to show a retained STNR and sometimes even a spinal gallant if they're so fidgety and can't sit still. So the ATNR is a reflex pattern that is triggered by the head turning to one side. So like this, right or left. Whenever the head turns to one side the head turns towards extends, and the side the head turns away from will flex. Think of it like this reflex splitting the body into right and left. I don't know if I have that in here, or actually it's in our program, it's in our online training, but it's not on the book. So anyways, so just think of it as like right and left. So what it does is whenever we're working on right and left side discrimination, think of working on TNR. So activities here, the exercises here we have for you really will help with that. So it has a lot of areas that this one will influence. So the reflex triggers, the sensory trigger is the head turning right and left. Additional response can be auditory. So the auditory in the eye, the head turns towards, becomes acutely active. So think of it, when the head is turning to one side, if somebody snaps here, my auditory, I hear it more frequencies coming, right? I tend to turn to one side. The head turns towards, becomes more acute, and the head turns, or the ear and the sight, the head turns away from, becomes slightly dormant. So kind of gives us figure ground or localizing sound, being able to know where sound is coming from. That is, so think of, when you think of ATNR, you think of auditory processing, visual scanning too, horizontal scanning. That affects the vestibular system. The vestibular system is this, okay? So the vestibular system is inside the inner ear. There are two of them. It looks like this. It's a sensory organ. It's located in both the right and the left inner ear. And it gives us feedback to a brain regarding head position, motion, balance, posture, and spatial relation. It's kind of like similar to the visual auditory system. Any reflex pattern that moves the head, including the ATNR, STNR, and even TLR and Moro, will affect the vestibular system. So if you're thinking of working on the vestibular system, think of this. So think of an inner ear, located in the inner ear. Okay, that's the vestibular system. It affects the auditory system, it affects the visual system. There is a course on visual, and I have it. I don't know if it's available for everybody online, that we do cover visual activities, visual skill, but it's really important. Most kids actually are misdiagnosed a lot because we don't screen for vision. I don't know, we forget, or for the longest time, I didn't either. I was working so much on how the body's moving and how they're doing, they're catching, they're throwing, they're riding. And all this time forgot, or didn't even realize, or wasn't even trained to actually check for the vision. It's like if they do not process the vision, if they can't see clearly, now I'm not talking about 20/20 vision, but the figure ground, can they track? Can they go up and down? Do they have a movement? Do they have like smooth pursuit? Can they fixate? There are so many things the right and left side of our eyes need to come in a team together to make sense of the world. Can they pick an object in a messy table. Why is their table consistently messy? They can't find something, or they can't read clearly. Why do they jump from one line to another? So we work on so many things except focusing on the vision, and the vision is its own treatment. And I highly recommend therapists, especially OTs or PTs working as speech therapists working with your clients, to just do a quick screen on vision. And if you see a challenge, and refer them to a vision therapist who is a lot more trained and really focuses on working on vision. So I really highly recommend that. And the TNR will affect vision as well, and horizontal tracking. So that's something to think about. So there are going to be like difficulties with developmental milestone. If this reflex is not fully integrated in the body, the child did not have a good opportunity to practice. And it can be that difficulty rolling. I know rolling, we don't talk about it enough, but I talk about it a lot in our program. Being able to roll on one side and another is really key, because that's one of the developmental progression. We talk about crawling is very important. We talk about crawling a lot with the SDNR, and that's very important. ATNR influences crawling as well. It's not just SDNR that helps with crawling. There's so many things that need to come together, head control and all that. But rolling, think about rolling, being able to roll from one side to another side. The ATNR facilitates the rolling, so it's good to see whether or not the child can roll one side or another. That affects the visual perception as well, so look into that. Difficulty crawling, rolling, lack of balance and stability. And there's some coordination challenge you'll see like similar with other reflex pattern, because they all need to come together for coordination. When you need to be coordinated, you need to get them all together. So when you see like difficulty coordination, it can be very broad. So as a therapist, for you to kind of hone in and cut, okay, where's my treatment plan going to start? With this child, that's up to you to have that clinical skill be sharper. Crossing midline as right and left, definitely ATNR is going to affect. Difficulty with sports, other things can be one that you might notice. Mixed laterality. Am I saying that right? Not having right or left side dominance. So if you see kids constantly switching right and left when they're writing, that might be red flag. When they're like 2 or 3, okay, that's fine, or 4. But then afterward, by like 6 or 7, you definitely want to see them have some kind of dominance. Otherwise, learning will be difficult. So why is that a challenge? Because every time they have to almost relearn that skill over again. So when you're starting to write, you don't even think about it, right? So you have motor memory, just pick it up and you start writing. You don't have to think through it. But then if a child is constantly switching right and left, they've not learned that yet, as they don't have the motor memory. So making sure that they have dominance for skill is really important, because we want them to be efficient enough to learn more and to play. Think about dominance, whether or not they have confusion. That's something that you want to think through. And one of the things you might see is the way the person moves. They might feel like robotic, meaning like they might not alternate right and left side. You might not see it when they walk. So best to ask them to run and see how they run. The running usually tells you better, in my opinion, when I'm observing, than a person when they're walking. They might feel like stiff when they're walking, but when you ask them to run, you see they're not moving with fluid, smooth movement pattern. The right and left leg move together. Instead of the opposite arm and legs coordinating for a smooth movement pattern, the right arm and leg move together, and vice versa. The difference is like right side moving together instead of alternating right and left side. So that's why exercises like cross crawls are good, because you're teaching them to cross crawl. And that's like also differentiating the upper body and the lower body. So with the ATNR, what you will see is with the pattern is each side moves together. So right side extends and left side flexes. So when they walk, what you want to do is like you having them work on the cross sprawl, which is really a cool activity and really helps with so many different things. And I highly recommend you can start with something simple like that. And similarly, you want to modify it depending on the child you're getting. So again, same as the other books, it doesn't mean you have to do all these exercises. This is considering the different clients, different therapists have. You have to go through by age. Is it age appropriate? Is it developmentally appropriate? And pick the ones that are appropriate for the child. So you have to keep modifying until you figure out the baseline for that child and start with that. There are some activities that you can use while they are writing, because really most kids get referred to us because they're having a hard time in the classroom. I highly recommend to look at ATNR because it affects copying from the board. You have this in page 100. It's going to be difficult. So look at the different activities that we have here and modify it according to their level. Use the app to make it easier for you. Do activities that are tracking their thumb. It might actually be really difficult sometimes to work on that depending on the child. If they're not able to keep their elbow straight or their head is moving with their thumb, it might be that when you're doing the visual tracking activity is to have them stable, and then you actually holding the object in front of them and have them track instead. So there's so many different ways to modify. Like I said, cross crawls, we got the cross crawls there to do that. We also have on page 21, I believe, is where we have the symptoms checklist. I think it starts 21, 22, and 23. Do this similarly, what we talked about in the moral book is the pre and post, like get a screen, kind of figure out where's the child is at, and then get to a good understanding of where you starting point, and then do a pre and post test for them as a screen. It's not a standardized assessment. So look through that and let us know if you have any questions regarding the ATNR and how to implement it in your sessions, or that the results that you're getting. Feel free to share with me. I'd love to hear from you. We have suggested activities that can help with the development, a reflex pattern. And this is activities that are fun that kids can do. Also, think about activities or like extracurricular activity that you want to recommend for parents that can support their child. So it doesn't really have to be coming to therapy. That can be like actually other extracurricular activity that can help the child develop. So we want to make it super simple for the parents because they're doing so much. And therapy can be really expensive to consistently do. So what are other activities that they can do that helps with their movement pattern? So think through that. And we have some suggestion here. So make sure you look through it. And if you have any questions, let us know. And thank you so much for joining me. In the next episode, we will talk about the third book, which is the SDNR. I'll see you soon. Bye.